Fashion with the Made in Kazakhstan label. The leading and aspiring Kazakh fashion industry designers. Fashion Week reviews, the latest trends, and pointers from the stylists. All your news from the world of fashion and beauty on Fashion Guide.
Interior designer profession has become fashionable in Kazakhstan. Increasingly, their services are required in the case of decorating apartments and houses. The task of such a specialist is to make space not only functional, but also corresponding to the latest trends. The fact is that trends on furniture, the color of walls, and curtains change as often as they do with clothes. There are new trends all the time. I travel to exhibitions very often, developing all the time. Because the designer profession is a profession where you have to develop every day, you must run faster than your customers. Now people ride, travel, and look very often. Asil has been engaged in space design for several years, from beauty salons to cafes. Recently, the orders come from apartment owners increasingly. It became fashionable to invite interior designers into the home. In the process of working with private clients, Baima Khan realized that it is not enough to be aware of trends in her profession. You must also be a good psychologist. There is a whole science of design psychology. This is what interior begins with. You are working with this. You are constantly in touch with the customer. You are entering their family. You become a member of the family within 6 to 8 months, or even a year or two. Therefore, it is necessary to build relationships first. Even when I start interior, I always say, we will spend a very long time with you, and I will ask you about everything: where you live, how you invite guests, how you arrange, where your grandmother is. Everything, if guests come to you or not. Someone chooses the latest trends, someone style and comfort. Therefore, in interior design, there are always several options for design to choose from. For example, minimalism, classical style, and oriental motifs are relevant this year. The last exhibition in Milan was aimed at contemporary style. Now the audience departs from classics and modern, as comfort, functionality, and simplicity prevail more in interior. Earlier, our Kazakhstani people loved classics very much. It was such a general trend. Then more and more they began to switch to modern style. I already traced the trend that out of 10 who request, 8 will be asking to organize their space in the modern style. Many people are eager for American classics. This is large-style furniture. For example, large sofas, large cushions, soft and comfortable furniture. The loft style, which is now very popular in the US and Europe, did not take flight in Kazakhstan. On the contrary, the presence of industrial elements, unfinished brick walls, exposed beams and pipes, cement floors. You will see this in coffee houses, but not in houses. For living spaces, they choose the loft style in its milder appearance. Now it is very fashionable to use everything natural in design. Namely, you can also use concrete. This tree, that is, it is natural materials that breathe. If earlier when the order was made, the first question was, what walls should be done? And people immediately said, we go to wallpaper store to match wallpaper with the fabrics. Now people are closer to paints. This is a wooden panel. That is, everybody are closer to loft and modern. Color also matters. Annually, experts make the forecast on tendencies of color decorations for interiors and declare fashionable shades of the nearest years. This affects largely on what scale the living rooms and bedrooms, kitchens and children's rooms will be decorated. If the hydrangea color prevailed last year, it is a gently pink color. Then this year we have fashionable colors. This is the color of greenery, the soft blue color shades, and the color of Niagara. These are yellow-green shades. So the fashionable living space of 2017 is positive colors, maximum free space, and naturalness. Quite a multi-purpose trend, which will catch fancy to many people. At first, it is the design constructed on color contrast, but at the same time, lightness and functionality. The second is correct and smart lighting use. The third is smart zoning, division of zones. That is space division. And the fourth is natural materials used. The task of interior designer is to create any space wisely using the knowledge of the latest trends. A sense of style and creativity are the necessary qualities of such a specialist, as well as spatial intelligence, intuition, and ability to foresee the outcome. Ballet and fashion have been cooperating for a long time. This friendship began at the beginning of the last century, when Coco Chanel created costumes for the productions of Blue Express and Apollo Massagetes. Her case was continued by Yves Saint Laurent and Pierre Cardin, inspired by Maya Plisetskaya. In the 21st century, this trend has been further developed. Vivienne Westwood sewed costumes for English National Ballet and Vienna State Ballet. In 2013, the artists of the Paris National Opera were clothed in costumes by Riccardo Tisci. Most times, the dancers of New York City Ballet come on stage in designer costumes. Valentino Garavani creates clothes for them. In Astana Opera, Czech Room, the costumes are stored, which Yves Saint Laurent had related to. For Notre-Dame de Paris Ballet, the outfits were sewed according to his sketches. In 1965, the couturier appeared as a costume designer for the production of Roland Petit at Paris Opera. Then the fashion designer shocked the French beau monde, dressing Esmeralda in a mini, and Quasimodo went on stage without a disfiguring costume and grease paint. He danced his humpback. The ballet was repeatedly represented to audiences around the world. Now the production was transferred to Astana Opera without any changes. The costume designer was invited from France. We were given the costume coordinator of this theater production just for the costumes. It was Philippe Binot. This is the main costume designer for l'Opéra Theatre in Paris. And together with him, we studied these costumes and sketches all over again and reconstructed them. Some of the costumes are absent already, and we reconstructed the whole image according to photographs. Asil Dosmoratova, Philippe Binot's assistant, traveled to France to purchase fabrics intentionally. This was one of the most difficult processes. At proper time, Yves Saint Laurent had chosen rich shades of materials, which were not meant to shine in any way. Factories that paint fabrics could not recreate this color, so we addressed them to Lyon, where these fabrics were created. Many performances in Paris were addressed to the factories of Lyon because there is a huge number of fabric manufacturers, and some of them worked at that time and created for these productions. And we addressed to them, and they reconstructed the same color, the same fabric structure. Behind the seeming lightness of costumes, in fact, a huge amount of work is hiding. Even Esmeralda's short dress required careful calculations. In theater's sewing shop, they remember with a smile the fabrication of the courtesan's attires. Thanks to various technical tricks in these dresses, slender ballerinas turn into small, plump women. There were no raincoats and bouffant skirts. However, the gravity was that all costumes had to keep up a shape, so we created them out of wool. We had the characters, the judges. They have very heavy costumes. They were created of 4 to 6 meters of woolen fabric. Also the headwear. The feature was in headwear, as they were increased by 2 to 3 times in size. They were heavy, of course. At Notre-Dame de Paris ballet collaborations of Astana Opera with famous artists, it did not end. Recently, Franca Squarcapino often appeared in theaters. The Italian won international recognition thanks to her work in drama and music theaters, as well as in cinema. In 1990, Franca received her Oscar for the picture Cyrano de Bergerac. Squarcapino has already created costumes in 8 productions for the Astana Opera. The Fountain of Bakhchisarai became the 4th work of the artist for the theater. She is number 1 worldwide and approaches to each production very carefully, studying the period, the style of costumes. The Fountain of Bakhchisarai is closer to the east, and all costumes and colors were close to Oriental costumes. This is a ballet, that is why the fabrics were chosen lighter, silk, chiffon, in order to make them look very airily on stage. Today, the Fountain of Bakhchisarai is a production with bright and stylish costumes. The interlacing of history and modern trends turned out to be harmonious. and artists feel comfortable performing the most complex pas in such outfits. The cooperation of fashion and art always takes place bilaterally. Working on costumes for ballet, designers draw inspiration from dance for their collections. So, once ballet flats appeared in wardrobes of all women of fashion in the world, this feminine and comfortable footwear is a direct derivative of points. Feathers, pastel colors, translucent skirts, body. In recent years, ballet does not go out of style. Fine arts meets with fashion, and together they create something truly inspiring. Modern trends are textile paints and drawings on clothes. The brightest trend of the season is portraits on clothes and accessories. In Kazakhstan, the trend is planned by artist Aidana Minaydarova. I began to deal with painting recently, literally more than half a year ago, already seriously. Initially, I was engaged in clothes painting, like all artists. I was engaged in jackets, only then the other things, sweatshirts, shirts. It all started with surreal pictures. Then there were experiments with pop art. Finally, the artist tried herself in national style. The image of a girl in traditional dress brought a special flavor to Aidana's line. All illustrations, designers began by herself. Basically, it's from my past. The heroes are taken from my past. Mostly I portray people, those people who I am interested in. For example, Einstein, he is still interesting to me. On the one hand, it's a recognizable personality and a recognizable photo that I've portrayed. And on the other hand, this is what attracts me in a scientific technology, even a kind of science fiction. What I'm passionate about is what I show exactly in my works. In addition to the theory of relativity, the designer is inspired by Hollywood. Aidana writes portraits of legendary women and quotes them. On collars, you can also find lines from the songs of modern singers. For example, I drew Rihanna, took quotes from her songs. I think this is the most appropriate quote for her. Also, there are actors. Today, Aidana's collection has expanded. The designer added stylish collars to sweatshirts and jackets. At some point, I realized that you need to do something that would be multi-purpose. For example, a thing that can be combined in wardrobe with at least 5 different ensembles, which would look interesting in different versions, ranging from classics to sport chic. The designer pays special attention to the quality of fabrics. Best of all, paint is laid on dense cotton, different types of wool and smooth jersey. It is important that fabric is not porous. Otherwise, the paint will absorb too much, and the pattern will not lie exactly. Aidana draws usual textile paints on clothes. She says it's not difficult at all. The main thing is subsequent care of the product. It should be understood that technical loads are undesirable. You should not wash them often. It is desirable at a low temperature and with manual washing, or a delicate mode in a washing machine. Despite the fact that the brand is less than a year old, Aidana has established herself as a promising designer. The artist plans to create a men's collection and participate in fashion weeks. Fashion trends are numerous and varied. Each new season, they give way to other trends. However, there are directions that do not lose their positions from year to year. These include inscriptions on clothes. In the modern world, it is not necessary to make loud and public statements. T-shirts or sweaters will say better than any words. Trends first appeared from the streets. It's a street style. This is the passion of some people with a certain culture, certain interests and mood. It all comes from there, from the streets. Naturally, designers are inspired by something, by people, and they put some inscriptions. This can be a specific message. It all began in the 60s. There were T-shirts with portraits of famous personalities and various inscriptions. The youth expressed their mood, convictions, and passions precisely on clothes. In the 1970s, images of favorite rock bands began to be printed on it. Today, this trend has swept the whole world. Especially inscriptions in Cyrillic are popular. Sweatshirts and T-shirts, Gosha, Russian Renaissance are worn by Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, and Kylie Jenner. In Kazakhstan, Leonid Jerebtsov became the first designer working on this style. His inscriptions in the Kazakh language, Ozinche, Pusik Girl, are worn by everyday women in fashion in Kazakhstan.
Если вообще говорить, да, о нашей теме Ozinche, да, то...
If we talk about our topic, Ozinche, this was invented during vacations. A friend of mine called me and said that shoot is necessary, And it's clear that I do not like to dress my customers in standard clothing. And such a t-shirt was invented. If we take t-shirts, I am not Chinese, I am Kazakh. This idea went after scrolling Instagram. I saw our it girl, and she was called a Chinese woman. I realized that this is a trend, that all our residents who go abroad for some reason are all compared to Chinese and Japanese women.
Наших жителей, которые выезжают за границу, почему-то всех сравнивают именно с китаянками и японками.
If the designer wants to make a direct announcement, he will simply print it on a t-shirt. The most popular slogans for today are political and feminist. If it is not too close to you, choose quotes from your favorite films and books, statements of famous people, as Bota Bakrizan does. The designer often uses lines from works of Abai and Mukagali Makatayev in her works.
У меня самое первое слово, которое я использовала, было слово «ерекше».
The very first word that I used was «yerekche». This translates as unusual, and I used it everywhere in different fonts and still do. I also used much more motivating phrases. For example, from my collection, what was popular and more sellable is «Joly nan taima». The inscription is translated as «Don't leave the road». Other designers come up with puns, plays with language, and verbal provocations. Inscriptions on my tank top means Jalmaiz Kempir. Translated into Russian from Kazakh, it means old witch. That is, it was done for humor, for laughter. The girl put it on a tank top, meets passers-by, they smile. You can wear clothes with provocative inscriptions not only with jeans and leather jackets. You can wear with such things as feminine skirts, business trousers, and culottes. Given the fact that fashion has stepped far enough, and therefore these t-shirts can be combined with everything, evening skirts, shoes, sneakers, and with mended jeans. You can put on jackets, fur coats on top. I think that this is a multi-purpose clothing that can be worn in life and even worn on some kind of routes. And if earlier inscriptions were mainly used for t-shirts, now they can be seen on dresses, sweaters, and skirts. The main rule is to understand the true meaning of the words and phrases. The slogans should be in tune with one's personality and mood. Hot hits of the season can make you a real fashionista. But nevertheless, along with trend things, a set of capsule things should always be in the wardrobe. They are good for all occasions and help out at the right time. These include jeans, shirts, t-shirts, jackets. Recently, pleated skirts were added to the list. It is quite cross-functional. It is very well combined with many things, both with a classic shirt and blouse, and with a t-shirt, as with a leather jacket and with a bomber jacket. That is, the skirt is quite cross-functional, and it can even be called basic. If we talk about materials, then in the cold season, give preference to pleated skirts made of dense cotton, wool, and velour. They fit well on the figure and warm in bad weather. Many women of fashion in autumn-winter seasons often wear skirts of exceptionally dark colors. Black, gray, brown, green, blue. For the sake of varieties, include models with metallic effects in the wardrobe. The color of capsule things need not be black, white, gray, or beige. It can be any color from your palette. And in this case, we took a more interesting shade than black. The shade will go well with other things. Paired with this skirt, it is necessary to choose tailor-made blouses and jackets for business image creation. Girls who try to look bright and like extravagant things can add a belt over the jacket. An excellent addition to this elegant image will be the pumps. Sport chic and casual style lovers can combine a skirt with flat shoes. As an option, sneakers or loafers. We have this image for the day. Here we focused on convenience, so we used flat shoes, cotton t-shirts, and we took a leather jacket for a cool day. As part of the evening image, pleated skirts look great with black and white tops. An ideal pair of them will be products made of light flowing fabrics.
Третий образ у нас для вечернего выхода. Мы использовали ту же юбку плесе нашу, да.
We used our pleated skirt, added a top in linen style to it. We decorated with an ornament and added here such a glowing purse as a bright focus. In this image, you can go to the cinema, even on a date. The image is quite romantic.
И в кино, и даже на свидание. Образ довольно романтичный.
Recent seasons dictate the rule that androgyny is no longer in trend. Fashion houses have paid special attention to such feminine things as the pleated skirt. It firmly and permanently took a place in fashionistas' wardrobes and even went into the category of basic clothing.